I'm the Amateur Logician from amateurlogician.com. We're going to consider indirect proofs, also known as reductio ad absurdum proofs, and we'll consider an example. The general structure or form of an indirect proof is as follows. We have some premises like p sub 1, p sub 2, all the way down to p sub n. We then make an assumption. We'll call that proposition A. And then based on that assumption and the premises, we make some derivations using the standard rules of inference like modus ponens, modus tollens, etc. We get derivations like d sub 1, d sub 2, all the way down to d sub n minus 1, and most importantly, finally, we arrive at a contradiction of the form d and not d. But that is a logical impossibility. There's no way that can be true, because that assumption led to that contradiction. A must be false, or in other words, by the law of excluded middle, not A must be true. For example, consider this from Introduction to Logic by Harry Gensler. The argument is God is all-powerful. If God is all-powerful, then he could have created the world in any logically possible way, and the world has no necessity. If the world has no necessity, then we can't know the way the world is by abstract speculation apart from experience. Therefore, we cannot know the way the world is by abstract speculation apart from experience. Okay, so first premise, God is all-powerful, and we will give that a P. That's our first premise. Second premise, if God is all-powerful, then he could have created the world in any logically possible way, and the world has no necessity. So we have if P, then A, he could have created the world in any logical possible way, and the world has no necessity, not N. That's a premise. Line 3, if the world has no necessity, then we can't know the way the world is by abstract speculation apart from experience. So line 3, not N, arrow, not K, premise. And our conclusion is, therefore, we can't know the way the world is by abstract speculation apart from experience. In other words, not K. So with this, for line 4, let's make our assumption. And the contradictory of not K is just K, so we'll just assume K. And as an assumption, we will place it, so to speak, under quarantine. And for our purposes, we will just box that assumption. So for line 5, let's double negate K. And then we can use our modus tollens to get that N. So for line 6, we can get not N by modus tollens with lines 3 and 5, still under quarantine based on that assumption. For line 7, we can get N by double negation of line 6 under quarantine. Notice the first premise is P, second premise is if P, then A and not N. So we'll do a modus ponens inference. So for line 8, we can get A and not N by modus ponens with lines 1 and 2 under quarantine. For 9, let's get not N and A by the commutative rule with line 8. For 10, we can get not N by the simplification of line 9. Now notice we have N on line 7 and not N on line 10. We have a contradiction. So for 11, we can get N and not N by the conjunction rule with lines 7 and 10. But because that assumption leads to this contradiction outside of quarantine, we can say, therefore, it is not the case that K is the case, because we have our indirect proof with lines 4 through 11. In other words, we cannot know the way the world is by abstract speculation apart from experience based on our premises. I hope this video has been helpful. Please consider visiting my website at amateurlogician.com for an extensive tutorial on traditional verbal-style logic and an ongoing, in-the-work tutorial on propositional logic and eventually predicate logic and more. Be well.